The following is a presentation of the Eagles Sports Network.
Well, this is like one of those games that's always cool because it's a short ride and right down the road. Like, we're so familiar with one another. Even the thing I think that make this one different than anyone else is, we're close enough that we kind of get involved in all sports. I think last year our basketball game was like a really fun event. And so, it's always a fun game. And so we're looking forward to going over and having a great game.
Trey Simmons has blossomed into one of the more prolific passers in the SAC, first in the league in just about all passing categories, first in the league in total offense. What's it take to bottle up a dynamic guy under center?
He's really a young guy that's similar to, the kid from Newberry that we talked about so much. You just kind of see, him being a star on the rise. Like, he's an athletic kid that, is really good with his legs, and his legs allow him to kind of create opportunities down the field to where they make a lot of big plays, just being able to buy him time and receivers working to get open. And so the big thing that we've got to do is, like, we've got to stay with our guy. We've got to keep our eyes in the right place. We have to do some things to make sure we can hem him up and not give him time enough to get the ball downfield.
Defensively, they've been hyper opportunistic this season, lead the country in defensive touchdowns. You've given up one. Granted, that's the only score that has resulted from a Carson-Newman turnover this season. Point of emphasis, or just something to keep in the back of your mind?
I think the biggest thing is, like they always have, they gamble on defense, and when you gamble, you're going to make some big plays and you're going to give up some. The biggest thing that we have to do is be sound. Don't push something somewhere it's not there. We have to be smart with the football, and the opportunity for us to give it to them and snap the ball again, like we need to snap it again.
The success from this past weekend. Obviously, the final 35 minutes were incredible. How do you build on it instead of getting fat cat syndrome?
And I think that's what our meeting was about yesterday. It has the potential to be a highlight of the season or the highlight of the season. The goal would be for it to be a highlight of the season and for us to kind of, use it and that energy to kind of propel us forward. I think it's something that shows us what we're capable of accomplishing if we'll, work to do things consistently. So that's the big thing we talked about yesterday, putting a consistent game together, offense, defense, eliminating a ton of mistakes, and then now going and being able to be consistent from game to game, is what we're working towards.
You had to shuffle your line for the first time all season in that game. Brian Doe goes down with an injury. Colt Sinor, who was your number 2 center throughout fall camp, moves over from left guard where he had been thrust due to injuries previously. Christian Jones takes his first snaps at left guard, and then Claude Vangelis, who'd been a backup title, third tackle. Seemed like he accounted for himself well. What did you see from that group with some extended adversity and moving the ball well against the Wolves?
Yeah, and that's the thing that's crazy. Claude had to flip from one side to the other side. And so I think, that's one thing I think Coach Ray does a good job. And that's what we talked about, from a center standpoint. We worked after last year, like, hey, everybody on our team needs to be able to, like, somewhat snap. Because we got in the bind where we didn't have a center. So that's something that, he's really worked on, over the offseason to kind of develop that. And so Colt, even though he hadn't done it this season because of the situation, he's done it some. And so I thought he came in. I thought he performed well. Christian's probably the wild card because we haven't really played him at guard, but, he's one of your better linemen. So you always, trying to make sure you get the right personnel on the field, and then you try to get them in the right place. But I thought Christian did a good job of going inside and being able to kind of, pick that up. At least he was on the same side, so you had a concept of what was going on. So I thought he did a good job of adjusting. And then Claude's a guy that, we feel like Claude's a quality player, could play for us. Just got somebody else in front of him right now that's probably played, here a little bit more. But for him to come in, be the next man up, and show that he has the potential to do what needs to be done, I think it's good for all of them.
The travel in this one, you kind of alluded to it. Your previous road trips this season have been hikes. How can that be a benefit that you're just hopping on a 45-minute bus ride over to Greenville?
You get to sleep in your own bed. You kind of get to keep somewhat of a regular routine. Even like pregame is not that much different from what it would be for a home game. And so, the routine kind of stays the same. The biggest thing is just getting on the bus, making sure we're timing with focus and concentration and building up to the game is one of the things that you want to make sure that you handle the right way.
Why was your team able to compartmentalize that blocked field goal at the end of the half and play their best football in a few years from that point forward?
I think it happened so fast, and have to go right back on the field, it's something I think that helped. We didn't really have time to think about it. And that's where, and you always talk about mindset. That's where, we had one or two guys on the sideline. It's like, oh, here we go. And it was cool. One of the other guys on the sideline was like, oh, no, we're not. And then just to see that, oh, no, we're not mentality take the field and then just go finish the entire football game, I think.
I mean, to not allow a first down in the second half, the way that you did, obviously they had their issues at quarterback with injuries and stuff like that, but what was it about the way that group came together in the second half to ensure that everything was locked down?
I think I think the major factors that we really haven't talked about in there, we worked on, we looked and we were leading up to that game. I think we were the worst third down defense in the conference. And so it was something not just for that game, but we knew that we needed to work on. And it was really kind of making our guys conscious of that situation. And it's cool, here at home, all of a sudden I think our guys kind of caught the song Turn Up was on. And then, hey, that's third down. And all of a sudden, the sideline kind of got behind them. So we got first stop, we got the second stop, and then all of a sudden the energy's kind of coming our way. Our sideline starts kind of come alive and realize exactly what that situation was in the game. And so once we were a little bit more aware of the situation, I thought the guys were able to respond to it better.
How do you avoid a letdown this week?
I think we got to go out and we got to have a good week of practice. I think, for us, the plan can't change. The plan has to continue to get better and better every week. And I think the people we play are going to get better and better. I think the situations in which we play in, if we do what we need to do, are going to become more and more critical. So the biggest thing that we've got to do is we got to go out. We got to have a great day of practice today and tomorrow and just kind of keep taking every day, one day at a time. And that's what we talked about last week. Every time the football gets put down, just go do what you can do that snap and then, just kind of see where it's at. Like we talked in the locker room, our whole focus hadn't been, worrying about the results. Just go do what you need to do, and then hopefully you can start getting the results to fall in place.
Well, maybe the last year plus, you've tried to be a little more balanced on offense, and I guess maybe with the game plan because of the weather, you were more run heavy on Saturday. Do you feel like that's maybe a turn in the tide for your offensive group to maybe be a little bit more aggressive in the run game?
Yep, I think that's something for me that's always been kind of a challenge for us. I think, coming, with what we've always done, it's one thing if people are like, be more balanced and, what you need to do is do what you got to do to win a football game. And so, I think, our guys did a good job last week and, we were able to open some things up. And then, they, like Tyree told you at the end of the game, they gave a 5-man box, and so we were able to kind of find some spots in there to get good runs. I think being able to do the option stuff, I think was a big plus. We've got some good athletes to try to get them one-on-one against people. I think something that we have to continue to work to do.
There's a lot of guys in that locker room, be it here, be it elsewhere, that maybe these last couple of years have been tough on them, either through transfers, through the way that the seasons have gone. What's it say about the maturity level of that group in that locker room to not go from, here we go, we're going to be 1-4, we're down to a top 10 team, we have no chance here, to understanding that, hey, we can turn this thing around, there's a lot of time left.
So I think it still goes back to the message every week that we talk about. That's one thing we talked about before. We felt like this group has a chance to be special. But at some point, if you're gonna be special, you got to do something special. And so, and we knew, I think, if we worked and be persistent, then that the opportunities would eventually come. But now we have to make sure that we get create those opportunities and make them continue to work our direction. That's what we talked about a little bit earlier. It's just building off of this and not letting this be it.
Can you put into perspective, historically, what was done against Newberry? I've gone back and looked at what are the greatest all-time comebacks in Carson football history. And there have been 14-point comebacks before, but I can't, even researching, it doesn't feel like there's something where you just completely shut down a team like that defensively to rally. Even like when, I think it might have been your senior year at Edinburgh, down 22.
Oh, yeah.
They still scored. Granted, Carson-Newman was scoring more often.
Yes.
Have you been a part of a game like that?
Yeah, I didn't realize until, I come up to talk to you after the game that, like, we scored 24 unanswered points. Like, like just when but I think that's the mentality is, like, you don't really worry about what's happening in the game. All you can control is the next play. And so, and it's getting those guys in that mindset, like, go win this play, touchdown. You go win next play, touchdown. And so then that's what we talked about, let's go get this game back to 0-0 and see if we can win the second half. And so, like, just taking that mindset, I think it is so critical. I remember being at Glenville State after I first got back up here. We went to Glenville State, and we fell behind at Glenville State. And one of the kids walked up to me after the game. He's like, I've never been a part of anything like that. I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, anytime the team I was at before, like, we fell behind, like, we just always lost. And I'm like, that's the craziest thing I ever heard, from just being in the programs that I've been in, just because, that comes with a lot of confidence. Like, you have to have the confidence to not panic when something goes bad, because in reality, that's just life. Like, things are going to go wrong, and if you do what you need to do, then time will normally fix it. The only problem in a football game is we only have 60 minutes to get it fixed. Sometimes 24 is 15. And so you have to build a plan based on the time that you have to give yourself a chance. And the good thing is, like, all of this stuff happened early enough in the game to where we had time to just kind of continue to run a plan, not panic. The 2-minute drill set up to where you had to rush a little bit. And to be able to get that score, like I said, and to go in at halftime down just 14-7, that provided a lot of encouragement going into the half.
Tusculum's return kick for a touchdown against you in 3 consecutive games, going all the way back to 3 consecutive games at their place, going back to 2016. Your kickoff coverage hasn't had to contend with a ton of returns this year because Christian Irwin's put pretty much everything in the end zone. How mindful of you do you have to be of what's typically a pretty good Tusculum return team?
We hopefully Christian will continue to put him out the back of the end zone, and you don't have to worry about it. But I think for us, we've had some problems with that already this season. But the big thing that we've worked relentlessly on is, finding the fits. Our guys have to get down. They have to find those right fits to close off gaps and then squeeze in returners. Like, they've got guys that are athletic. They've already returned a couple kicks for touchdown. Their punt returner is really good. And so, like, we have to cover. We have to work blocks the right way, and we have to come to balance and be able to make tackles. And the biggest key is we got to get a lot of guys there. We just can't have one guy in position and a lot of other guys kind of watching the game. Like, we have to play with an all-out effort.